You're listening to the Morphology Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Morphology Podcast, aka Murph here to share interviews about biking experiences from cyclists who have pedaled to places all over. Each week we will get to know new people and explore new destinations to ride your bike. As you listen to these adventures, you may wonder, why haven't I done that yet? Well, this week Dixon Novy from the Quad City Bicycle Club is on the show. This club has been around since the 60s, and their charter has been part of RAGBRAI for as long as the ride has existed. Dixon himself has biked a dozen RAGBRAIs and has been part of several overnight town committees who do all the planning and prepping for thousands of cyclists to camp. Dixon shares his take on what it's like to be part of the QCBC club and charter. Enjoy! All right, well, on the show this week we have Dixon Novy. Hey, Dixon.
Hey, how you doing, Murph?
I'm good. I can't really say how many years I've known you. It's probably been less than 10 years. Do you think? Maybe 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, I'd say 6 or 7.
Yeah. And we met, we were part of the RAGBRAI inspection crew, and we used to ride across Iowa in June in anticipation of the real RAGBRAI in July. So I'm pretty sure that's how we met. But then, of course, we've seen each other at all kinds of different events back when events could happen.
Yes, on the pre-ride. Yeah, that's when I first met you several years ago.
Yeah, and we should probably give a quick shout out to RAGBRAI because, they are part of this podcast, of course. They're the reason for this podcast, but also registration has opened. So Dixon and I are recording this the beginning of December, and registration for 2021 has opened, and it's such a good feeling to know that, we're putting hope out that we can go back to doing events in 2021.
Yes, as long as everybody wears a mask, we can end this pandemic together.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have not checked out RAGBRAI, it's a pretty simple website. It's just ragbrai.com, and that's RAGBRAI.com. So, okay, enough about that. Let's talk about the reason that I have you on the podcast, Dixon, is to talk about a bike club that you're a part of that's been around for a very, very, very long time. I don't know if it's been around since RAGBRAI's been around, but that is what we're going to talk about today. So the name of this group is the Quad Cities Bicycle Club, which is also a charter service for RAGBRAI. And for those of you who don't know, the Quad Cities is a 4-pack of cities that are on the Mississippi River. So it's between Iowa and Illinois, and there are 4 towns there, or 4 cities, and they make up the Quad Cities. So Dixon, you must live somewhere near the Quad Cities.
Yes, I live in DeWitt, just north of the Quad Cities.
Okay.
The Quad Cities consists of Bettendorf and Davenport, Iowa, Rock Island, and Moline, Illinois.
Got it. And I have been to all 4 of those communities. I don't know if I've been to DeWitt, unless maybe it's been on a RAGBRAI in the past.
Yeah, I think we've been a pass-through town before,
okay.
Way back when.
Okay. Well, give us some history about the Quad City Bicycle Club.
Okay, the bike club is 56 years old.
Wow.
It was founded in 1964 by 4 gentlemen. 2 of them were from Great Britain, a father and a son, and then they had a friend from Belgium that had moved here as well, and they got with a local man, Fred Blesson of Davenport, and they're the ones that formed the Quad City Bicycle Club.
Really? So 3 of the 4 were not even local to the Quad Cities area?
Correct. They come from areas of the country that had bike clubs, and they've seen the opportunity here and started up for us.
Wow. So does this club? Well, obviously you were not, or maybe you were part of it when it first started, but is it like the same sort of club that it was back then?
No, the original mission statement was they wanted to start a bicycle club for members so they could start tourism, racing, and social riding, and get
Okay.
organized rides. And then over the years, we've kind of expanded it to include mountain bike, adventure riding, bike packing, and then fat tire would be our newest one.
Awesome. Which is all stuff that it's very popular right now. So that's a smart move for that organization.
Oh, gravel riding! Don't let me forget gravel riding. That's probably their newest one.
That's true. Yeah. Fat biking and gravel riding. And I'm learning, a lot of people might already know this, but of course you can take a fat bike out and ride on gravel or, go on mountain bike trails, but specific bikes are designed for those types of terrain. So there are mountain bikes that are meant for mountain biking. There are gravel bikes meant for gravel riding, and they may look the same when you see them all stacked up next to each other, but they have very specific geometry for those terrains.
Correct. You sound like an expert. I know you have each one of these bikes.
I do. I do have one of each. I love them.
I ride my gravel bike primarily most of the year, or especially this time of the year. I've taken it across Iowa on the pre-ride before, just to do the gravel ride, and then it's comfortable enough that ride the whole week with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. My gravel bike is definitely comfortable, and I laugh because every time I switch bikes, that bike becomes my favorite. Like I ride it and I think, why haven't I been riding this all year round? It's just, I love it. Like I just got my fat bike out and I've been riding it the last week and I'm doing the same thing. Like, oh my gosh, I love this bike. But then, if I switch and then start, grab my touring bike or grab a different bike, that will become my favorite too. So I'm glad that the bikes themselves don't have any like thoughts or emotions, because I'm definitely messing with each of them.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need it to snow anytime soon, Murph.
Right.
I mean, you can ride that fat tire anytime you want. It doesn't have to snow.
You are right. I am not ready for snow just yet. Yeah. So back to Quad Cities Bicycle Club. You said it started back in the 60s. And how big is it now?
I think we have close to 800 members.
Oh, my gosh.
Now. We've had, up to, 1,200 people in the past, 1,200 riders. A lot of people will join our club to jump in on RAGBRAI and then on Tomraw, the tour of the Mississippi River Valley. We draw folks from Des Moines to Chicago for the Tomraw ride.
Wow. And I did, on a side note, see that Tomraw just announced that they are ready to make a commitment for 2021.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're raring to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we should probably mention the charter. I'm assuming that started a few years after the club was born, but tell us a little bit more about the charter for RAGBRAI.
Well, RAGBRAI started in 1973, and our beloved member, my hero, Carter LeBeau, was in on the planning of the very first RAGBRAI.
Mm-hmm.
So he rode across the state with the guys on the very first one. So, and then he had he's the one that started the charter for RAGBRAI. So we've been doing it ever since RAGBRAI was born in 1973.
Wow. I'm going to say there's probably not a lot of teams that can say that.
No, I believe we're the only charter service that have been around since RAGBRAI was first incepted.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And then Carter, he started several rides, after RAGBRAI. He started these week-long tours and weekend tours across, he would call them bear or college-to-college rides. And he's the one that started Tomraw, which is still the only one still running to this day that he started out with. And a lot of people remember Carter. Him and his wife Kay, they would be out there on RAGBRAI, and they would have the knee-highest socks, the soccer socks. They would have a blue on one leg and red on the other, and then they would ride every day. You'd see them out there, and Carter rode every day on RAGBRAI for the first 40 years till till he couldn't ride anymore.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, for people who remember him, those socks are like trademarks now. I mean, when you see
Yes.
somebody wearing a mismatched red and blue sock, you know that they're paying tribute to Carter.
Yeah, he passed away in 2013, and RAGBRAI honored him in 2014 by selling what we call Carter socks.
Mm.
And then all our club members, we wear them on the last day of RAGBRAI every year ever since, just as a tribute.
That's awesome. So then you mentioned, the club is like 800 people strong. What about the charter? Like, how many people can you accommodate?
We cap our week-long charter at 350 guests. We always start and end here in the Quad Cities, so we draw folks from all across the country and from Canada that ride with us. So I think like 30-some% is the only from the Quad Cities is what makes up our charter, and then everybody else is from outside of the Quad Cities.
And I've done, I think 20 some RAGBRAIs, and I've done it, with a team. I've done it solo. I've done it with RAGBRAI specifically. So I've done it a lot of different ways, but being responsible for 350 people is just mind-blowing to me. Like, that's quite an accomplishment, because you've got to somehow find camping space big enough. You've got to find showers. You've got to find food source. You've got to either get your team close enough to, wherever the big party is for RAGBRAI each night, or you have to create your own party. So I can't even imagine the amount of work that goes into that.
Well, the overnight towns, they're well organized by, RAGBRAI's meeting with them, on a, biweekly schedule before RAGBRAI comes up. So they're all organized, ready to go. They tell us when we can go to the towns and pick out our campsite. Sometimes it's like, okay, you guys are going to stay here. And other times it's like, okay, you have your choice of this place with the trees, this open flat field, or this, field with the on the hillside. So, it just depends on the town and the committees and the campground chairman, how we get our sites, but they do all the hard work. They make it, so easy on our organized charters, because we're the easiest ones to get placed first. And then because, we're not demanding, we don't have electricity. We have our own kaibos. We have our own generators. So that's the same with all the other charters too, with all organized charters. We're the easiest ones to place and get set, and then the pain in the neck ones come after us.
Do you think they say that about you?
Probably. We're hogging all the good spots. That's what they say about us.
That's great. So that's one of the benefits of being in a charter, is that somebody else is doing the legwork on finding where you're going to be staying and how you're going to stay clean and be able to go to sleep and eat and all that good stuff.
It's nice to work with the overnight towns and help them as we can. Tell them what to expect. We tell them, what our favorite foods are, grab and go, what the dollar amount should be. And it's just great helping them out, because we know they're overwhelmed. They're not used to this. We do it every year. So to help them, very rarely we'll come across a repeat town. It's just great to help out those folks.
And, if you think about our executive director for RAGBRAI, Dieter Drake, he's got a pretty big responsibility of showing these small towns, like explaining to them what it means to have thousands and thousands of riders come in, plus their crew. When you've got a small town of maybe 5,000 people, I'm sure that they just don't quite comprehend what it'll be like to have 20,000 people come in just for 24 hours.
Yeah, Dieter, there's no doubt in my mind, is going to do a fantastic job. He already has. He's already shown us.
A quick interruption to tell you this week's podcast is sponsored by Lizard Lips Lip Balm. These great lip balms contain natural ingredients, come in a variety of flavors, and you can choose certified organic or balms with sun protection. Check it out at lizardlips.net. Now back to the show. All right, well, when you look at the Quad City Bicycle Charter, can anybody be part of that?
Part of ours, yes, anybody can, as long as they have a RAGBRAI official RAGBRAI tag.
Mm-hmm.
We don't take any bandits. We follow RAGBRAI rules to the T. But as long as they have a RAGBRAI tag or applied for one, they can join our charter.
Mm-hmm. And so, do you have a lot of people who have done it years and years and years, or do you sometimes have new people, or how does that work?
Okay, our charter members are. Like from last year, for instance, or the last RAGBRAI, they came from 32 different states. We had 10 folks, repeat customers from Toronto, Ontario, and they brought 2 friends from Great Britain with them. So almost 60% of our charter guests are return guests.
Oh, wow.
35% of those are from the Quad Cities. And, 25% are women and 75% men. This is the reason that, we have to stand in line to get a shower for long periods of time while the women are in and out before we finish our beer standing in line.
So there's a tip for ladies out there looking for a new team.
That's right.
So looking at this specific charter group, I know I've been part of a RAGBRAI team, and there's all kinds of, specific rules as to how much weight we could bring on the bus and what sort of container we had to bring things. And then there was always like fun rules too, like if you're the last one in, you've got to, you get some fun hazing going on. So obviously this is a little bit more professional of a group, but any rules to being part of the team?
Yeah, we're the larger group we are. We tell our folks that we're a family-friendly or a quiet campground.
Mm-hmm.
We don't mind if you party as long as you go do it somewhere else. We're older. We like to get to sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
So our average age is 52 and 53. The last couple RAGBRAIs.
Mm-hmm.
So we allow our guests. I think RAGBRAI allows you one 50-pound bag to go with their charter, with their trailer, in their trailer. We allow 2 40-pound bags, one for your gear and one for your tent and everything. And then we allow, if you have a sleeping bag in a 5-gallon bucket or a folding cot or bicycle cases, we don't count those as part of your baggage, or one of your 2 bags, because you can put them up above the pile of bags every day. And as long as your name is on it,
mm-hmm.
The sleeping bag in the 5-gallon bucket has worked out perfect in years past. People love it, so they can get more gear. They get more gear into their bags.
Sure, that's actually very smart, because then you also have the plastic, so you can probably shove more things in it, and it packs easier when it's on the vehicle.
Yes, you can throw it right up above, and it fills in that dead space up at the top.
I'm thinking ahead. But the trick to it, I did a video for RAGBRAI a couple years ago on how to pack for RAGBRAI.
Mm-hmm.
And I went with the specifications of, the weight limit, and I had 1 bag. And I got to tell you, when you actually fill it up to the weight capacity, you have to remember that once you get it off the baggage truck, you've got to haul it to your camp spot. So, thinking about your crew, if you've got 2 40-pound bags plus maybe a cot plus a plastic tub, after 4 or 5 days, that probably gets to be a pain.
Yeah, and then with RAGBRAI, if you're right at that 50-pound limit, and they weigh them every day, if they think you're overweight, they weigh them every day, and then if you're at your limit, where's your souvenirs going to go unless you're going to mail them back home?
Mm-hmm.
You can't fit them into your bag, one, and then you'll be over your weight limit too.
Yeah. So a little bit more about your team. You gave us an idea of your average age, but tell us a little bit more about the team. Like, do you guys wear matching clothes? You mentioned the socks that you wear on the last day, but how do people know when they're out riding if there's another Quad City Bike Club person riding next to them?
Well, we furnish all our people with these wristbands. So we know that they belong to our club. We know that they belong into our camp if they have one of our wristbands on. And then when we're out riding on the road, we can notice them. I don't know how many times the first time I met somebody in our group was out on the road, and I rode up and was talking to them and noticed their wristband. So we're able to identify our folks like that, and then plus, we're always helping. We have a good group of club members that are ambassadors for RAGBRAI, and we have at least one or two a day that are out there helping people along the road. Just like Bareback, he's out there every day helping everybody. So we're blessed. We're really blessed to have him in our club.
And for those who don't know Bareback, his name is Dean, and he rides a bike with no saddle on it, so he stands the entire time, and his saddle bags, which are on the side of his bike, are full of bike parts and bike tubes, and he will stop anytime he sees somebody on the side of the road and help them out.
Yeah, he carries tubes and parts and tires. He'll have tires wrapped around his handlebars. Dean Mathias, he rides every day of the year. I don't even remember the last time he missed a day. So he's got a streak of several years going now.
Wow.
But yeah, to see him out on RAGBRAI, people holler at him, "Hey, there's that no saddle guy," and he's a fixture of our club. We're proud to have him.
And I never asked you, but this charter has been going on for a very long time, as long as RAGBRAI has been around. But do you get to ride RAGBRAI, or are you on the charter volunteer crew?
Well, my reward, as I guess we should say, for doing 9 or 10 months of volunteer work during my spare time for this endeavor, is that I get to ride RAGBRAI.
Oh, okay.
During a normal year, I get a RAGBRAI kit, and then I'll get to ride RAGBRAI. In the past, I've been injured where I couldn't ride one year, and then another year, I had one of our drivers back out the last second, leaving me no choice but to have to drive and work all week long. And there's nothing more painful than watching the people come in and big smiles on their faces, and they're talking about what a blast they had that day riding. It's good to see that, but it just kind of rubbing salt into the wound.
I do remember a couple years ago that we were lost, and we were going up some sort of big hill, and from a field I hear somebody yelling my name, and it was you, and you were at the Quad City Charter campground, and I don't remember if you had just gotten in for the day or if you were rewarded by helping that day, but what a treat that was.
Yeah, that was in Atlantic. I remember that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I was glad that I noticed you riding by. No, yeah, you was coming into town, right? Or you leaving?
I was coming into town, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So we already mentioned a little bit, but I wanted to find out what RAGBRAI is like for the crew, or the team, I should say, the charter people who ride. Do people ride as do you all leave in the morning as a team, or is it kind of a come and go as you want?
Yeah, as large as our group is, they break off into different teams, I guess you would call it, and they will leave at separate times. I mean, they will leave whenever they get up and feel going. At 8 o'clock, we tell them, last call, your bags have to be on the truck and you have to be on the road. But there's people that leave at before light out, and we make sure they have lights on their bikes if they're going to leave that early. And then, we have a majority of them that will leave about 7 or 7:30.
Mm-hmm. So it's just like the rest of RAGBRAI, where it's not, there's not like a shotgun start. It's basically as you get ready, you kind of get into your groove and you figure out what works for you as far as getting on the road.
They want to have that camp coffee before they get started in the morning.
Mm-hmm. I know I wasn't going to say this, but a lot of times we decide what time we're going to leave in the morning based on the vendors, up the road. Like, is there going to be a long line at such and such? I want a pancake today, so let's leave earlier or let's leave later so we don't have to wait in line.
Yeah, yes.
Well, besides RAGBRAI, are there other events that the club participates in?
Yeah, we have TOMRA, which is the Tour of the Mississippi River Valley,
Mm-hmm.
and I spoke briefly on that earlier. But that is, that draws up to 1,200 people annually for a two-day ride. We start in Bettendorf and go up in Iowa, and then jump over into Illinois. We'll loop through Wisconsin and then come back into Dubuque, Iowa on day one.
Mm-hmm.
Then day two, it's usually coming back from Dubuque to Bettendorf and stay in Iowa. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a 3-day or 3-state tour going up and Iowa coming back. And people just love it. It gives them a chance, these flatlanders gives them a chance to get out and ride some hills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely not a flat ride, that's for sure.
And then these other rides that I've done in the past is the Grand Illinois Bike Tour.
Mm.
That's put on in Illinois by Ride Illinois. And I've done 7 of them in the past and had to quit doing them because they interfered with the RAGBRAI pre-ride.
Ah.
But that's a nice 6-day loop ride through Illinois, different areas all the time, which is great, a great ride.
Mm-hmm. And do you ride very much in your hometown in DeWitt?
In a normal year, yes. This year, not so much. Is probably my lowest mileage in years that I can remember. Live in DeWitt, and DeWitt is in western Clinton County.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite ride out of the driveway is riding west, and we have several loops there. We can go down to McCausland or go over to clear over in western Iowa or different back roads out here because they're low traffic roads, and people always wave back. I let them know that when they're coming and going meeting with them.
Mm-hmm.
And farmers always wave back. People are more friendly out here. They're used to the bicycles being out on the road. So the roads out here are great.
Mm-hmm.
Riding.
I would guess that you've got a lot of low traffic gravel farm type roads that would be perfect for cycling.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Awesome. And you mentioned Grand Illinois Bike Tour. Any other adventures that you have been on or want to be on?
The Katy Trail in Missouri, it stretches from St. Louis over to Kansas City now. I hit that when I go to Arkansas. I'll hit it. I'll spend a day on it going south, and then when I'm coming back, I'll spend another day on it in a different section. It's one of those rides where I definitely want to spend the whole week on. Mm-hmm. Whether self-contained or with an organized tour. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. Senior Cycling does a great week-long tour on the Katy Trail.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I definitely want to do the whole trail one time.
And if I remember, it might have been our mutual friend Coop that talked about this, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can do some sort of Amtrak deal where you can ride most of the Katy Trail and then jump on Amtrak to come back, or vice versa. So it seems, I might have to look that up, but it just seemed like something that I looked into at one point and was like, I need to do that. Yeah,
Coop was talking about that mm-hmm. Amtrak to bike trail and then back home on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember him talking about that.
Yeah. What other adventures are you thinking about?
Well, the Ridgeland, Mississippi on the Natchez Trace, it's definitely on my bucket list. We met the folks at the Bicycle Tourism Conference every year. We talk to them, and they're so good about, with their Southern hospitality, so good about pumping up their bike tourism down there. It's definitely, that Natchez Trace is definitely on my list. I will have to ride that. I feel like I already have, by knowing these folks down there. They're so good at promoting their region. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I have that on my list too. And then also I have Elroy Sparta Trail, which we had scheduled to do in 2020, but due to both COVID and some bridge problems, we decided to not go. And actually, I think the weekend we were going to go, it ended up being like 30 degrees, so we didn't feel like camping was probably the smartest thing to do on that weekend.
Okay, that's up in Wisconsin?
Correct, yep.
Yeah, I've done pieces of that, and the Military Ridge Trail up there in Wisconsin is another great route.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, now I'd have to think about this. There was a ride I was trying to invent, and I believe we were starting in Dubuque, and then catching the Military State Trail, and then going to maybe Madison?
Yes, yeah.
That's on my bucket list to do sometime.
That's an off-road trail, which is just wonderful.
A quick interruption to tell you this week's sponsor is Thirsty Pigs, a full-service mobile event company offering beer, wine, spirits, plus catering for any indoor or outdoor event. Check out more at thirstypigs.com. Now back to the show. How about any passions that you want to plug, whether they're cyclist-related or just personal?
Passion, it would be probably the blood centers. I mean, they're always in need of donation, especially during these, quote, difficult times. But during the holidays is when they need donations the most, because most people don't even think about going and giving blood. So it's one of the best gifts that you can give. Donating blood is one of the best gifts you can give. So go out and donate a pint. There's 5 million Americans that receive blood transfusions every year. So there's nothing more important than giving the gift of life. And I remember reading in a bicycle publication this summer about, how bicyclists, are mostly, pretty healthy individuals. So that means they got good blood. The donation centers are always love to receive blood from healthy individuals. The QCBC put on a blood drive last November, and there was people that come in there, club members that come in there that haven't donated in for years, and it turned out it was a worthy cause. And then when I donate now, I always donate under the name of the Quad City Bicycle Club.
Nice. I was just going to say, I'm assuming that you are a blood donor since it's something important to you.
Oh, yes. I think my last blood donation, I hit the 20-gallon mark of a whole blood donor. So that's like 160 pints over the past 45, 50 years.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Not that I'm giving my age away or anything.
I can edit that out if you need me to.
No, that's fine.
All right. Well, Dixon, thank you so much for being on the podcast and talking about the Quad City Bicycle Club. And I guess, if people want to find out more information about the club, do you have a website or a Facebook page?
Yes, we have a website, QCBC.org, and then I am in the process of getting motivated to start a QCBC RAGBRAI Charter Facebook page.
Okay.
I've been told, Andrea's been on me about getting in the modern world, about getting Facebook up and going is something that I've never done. I never thought I had time to, but so many of our guests, want to be able to keep up with us
Sure.
on that avenue.
Sure.
So that is in the future.
Okay. Well, people can go to your website in the meantime, and then they can just keep doing a search in Facebook until you get that energy up to get that page going.
Yeah, on our website, there's the charter service pages, so it's really easy to navigate through all our instructions and registration fees and restrictions, our host hotel information. Everything is on there. Everything you want to know about the QCBC RAGBRAI charters on that website.
Awesome. And we talked about this before we started recording, but as soon as people register for RAGBRAI at ragbrai.com, is that when they can come over to your section and join your charter?
Absolutely, yeah. After they applied for their tag, then they come over and join our charter, whether they're a member or as an individual. They can join our charter then at that time.
Excellent.
And that's something that is just, they've got this new website, and it is just unbelievable how the registration is going this year. I get an email. I know exactly when somebody joins our group. It's been dinging in pretty regularly since they started, and I'm a big fan already, on day 3.
Wow. So it's day 3 and you've already have people registering for the charter service. That's mind-blowing.
All across the country. They're as excited as I am.
Yeah. Well, it's really nice to be able to talk to somebody who is part of such an important part of history as far as, Quad City Bicycle Club being around the whole time RAGBRAI's been around.
Yes, it is. It's an honor.
Yeah.
I look at it as an honor.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Dixon.
Hey, Murph, thanks for asking me to be on. It's great to talk to you.
You bet. That's it for this week. Thanks, Dixon, for taking the time to be on the podcast and tell us about the ins and outs of bike charters. It's hard to imagine just how much work goes into getting hundreds of cyclists' gear moved daily for 7 days straight. Well, you can check out the Quad City Bicycle Club by going to www.qcbc.org. And of course, if you have a topic or the name of a cyclist you find interesting, email me at murphologypodcast@gmail.com. Please visit my Instagram page for daily entertainment and check out the Murphology YouTube page to find videos of some of the places I go with my bike. I'll leave you with this quote from the Unwritten Book of Murphology. This quote comes from Grant Peterson. Think of bicycles as rideable art that can just about save the world. Think about it.